I actually did a Facebook post about how we could do that. And so I'd like to thank you and Daryl for giving us an example.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Now,
No.
just kidding. Apologies to the tender-hearted. Anything else?
Yes. I would like to know about what's the relationship between expansion of consciousness and compassion?
Compassion allows you to understand more clearly what others are experiencing in terms of their belief system. And by being able to have more empathy for that, your consciousness must expand in order to experience the empathy necessary to understand what it is they may be experiencing in their belief system so that you can have compassion for them instead of negative judgment about them.
So you're saying that compassion comes before the expansion? Or
expanding the consciousness to accept the idea that their path is as valid as yours will allow you to perceive what belief systems they are working with, and that will allow you to empathize with them because you understand they may simply not have the toolkit necessary to extract themselves from the experience that they are having or to transform it in the way that they would prefer to. And that understanding and that relationship is called compassion.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was also wondering about how the grays are at a higher frequency than we are.
No, not necessarily.
Oh, they're not? Okay.
Depends on which grays you're talking about. First of all, please don't lump them all together. There are several varieties of them.
Oh, okay. Some are lower. Some are lower than us.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not really even about that. Some of them have a specific purpose and job that necessitates them operating at a certain vibration. So lower and higher in that context is relative because they couldn't necessarily do the job they need to do at other frequency levels. So they may operate from time to time with higher frequency levels, but overall, for certain factions that are involved in the hybridization agenda, they have to operate at one particular frequency level that is relatively lower, but it's the frequency level that necessitates the job they need to do. So in that sense, it's the perfect level for them.
Okay. Now you said 144,000 cycles per second, that most beings who operate below that are in a negative state of being?
Well, not so much that they're in a negative state of being per se, but they may be exhibiting some, shall we say, less conscious awareness of certain things. Now, if you want to say that that's a more negative state, that there are more negative limitations in that sense that they're experiencing, well, all right, you can put it that way. But it's not necessarily an automatic assumption that if they're below that frequency, that they're automatically a more negative being fundamentally. They may just, again, be operating with certain tools that don't necessarily allow them the freedom to explore things that they might, at another time, learn to explore.
Okay. I also have a question about how you say that when we use plant teachers, it's just for 1 or 2 times and then you kind of learn.
Well, I didn't put a number on it.
Oh, okay.
I just said that at a certain point, you might realize that the plant teacher has taught you how to create that state for yourself without the plant teacher. If it goes beyond that point, then it becomes a kind of a crutch or an addiction. If you learn the lesson, you will create the state as you need to, and you will know that you don't need the plant teacher anymore to create the appropriate state. It may not feel identical to the state you experienced with the plant teacher, but that doesn't matter because once again, according to the theme of this conversation, it will be the state that is identical to what you need it to be to do what you need to do.
Okay. Now, why does Willa still need to actually use the Divinorum?
It is specifically designed for hybrids.
She can't create the state on her own?
Oh, she's able to do that once she was triggered.
Oh.
The Divinorum isn't necessary all the time in the 5 levels of mastery. But the idea is that that's one of the things you master in the 5 levels of mastery, is getting to a point where you don't need the divinorum. I never said that she had to have it all the time, but that's the beginning stages that often helps.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
All right.
What level would you say that she would be able to let go of that and create the state on her own?
At each level.
Oh.
In other words, there's a divinorum for becoming a cryptic. There's a different divinorum for becoming a nocturnal, and a shapeshifter, and a sage, and a wraith. But in each of those, you learn to create the state of the cryptic, of the nocturnal, etc., without the divinorum. That's when you master it.
Oh.
That's what the 5 levels of mastery, to some degree, means. You have mastered it without the idea of the trigger, without the idea of the teacher anymore.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it had so much direct connection to the divinorum.
Well, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So does that answer your question?
Yes, yes.
All right, well, thank you.
Can I ask one more?
That was a question. So I guess you just did. Is there another one still?
Yes.
All right. What is that one?
I was wondering, like, how you feel that whatever happened to Daryl's finger. How do you perceive that?
It's a lesson for the channel to not necessarily rush or push so hard to accomplish something. Sometimes going slower helps you go faster.
So you just interpret it as an idea. You don't feel anything physically.
Do I feel anything physically?
Yeah.
It's not my finger.
I know, but you sense things like if someone touches you, right? You can feel
If there is relevance for me to experience it, I will, but I'll experience it in the way that works for me. It doesn't mean it's exactly the same experience that someone else is having.
I know it doesn't, but I was just wondering if you could talk about what sensations that you feel in that.
Proceed with caution.
Oh, interesting.
So it's connected to some degree, a little bit, with the vibration that we do often experience, where we impose particular limitations on our ability to communicate with you, so we will not reveal something that interferes with your process. So there is a hold back energy to it. That's how I experience it. It's a hold back energy so that you are in the proper state to proceed forward.
So that you are, or the channel is?
Well, both in this case. I'm telling you how we experience it in a similar fashion. How we interpret it for ourselves is still similar to the idea of the lesson for the channel. Sometimes, again, come back to the present, and then you can move forward in a more efficient way without injuring yourself. So it's simply a moment when the channel lost focus of being in the present, which is very necessary when operating many of your power tools.
Okay.
So it's a lesson to stay focused on what's going on in the moment. Because even as we have said before, when you're operating on a certain frequency, the smallest deviation from that high frequency energy will halt the entire thing until you clean out that idea. Then you can move forward more efficiently. Does that help?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's about precision.
Hello, Bashar.
And you good day.
It's so good to be speaking with you once
And you
again.
as well.
And as you know, I'm obsessed with technology. And it's my greatest excitement. And we, as a group, have been working on several of the things that you have proposed.
Oh, thank you very much. Are you having fun?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, all right.
It's
then
absolutely
keep working.
Intense fun.
Yes.
And so I have some questions about that and some also observations about some of the things that I've heard you say.
Yes.
To sort of see if you have a reaction to that.
All right.
For example, your description of how magnets attract and repel from the little vortices of each of the crystal molecules. It's very, very similar to what has been proposed by our leader, whose name is Nassim Haramein.
Yes.
And you've experienced one of his crystals, because we gave one to you at Conscious Life Expo.
You mean to the channel?
Yes, to the channel.
All right,
so
yes.
Perhaps you have some experience with that.
Well, yes, so?
And we've seen photons being emitted from certain vortices from that tetrahedral crystal.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. What do you want me to say about it?
Just what do you think about those photons, and where did they come from in a quartz crystal that's been energized by our resonator technology?
Well, they're stepped down from higher frequency dimensions and translated into observable photonic energy in your dimension.
Okay.
Because the vortices and the crystals have that effect. They act as step-down transformers for a number of different frequencies of energies, but you won't know that unless they present you in your reality with some interpretation of those energies in a form that you can perceive and understand.
Right. Well, we don't completely understand it, but we see them with our
that you have the
instruments.
potential to understand.
Thank you. So, as in terms of the one of the questions I have is the consciousness that I want to have when I'm working with technology, of course, staying with the highest excitement.
Yes.
And not being downturned by anything that I don't expect.
Yes.
And all that. But are there special tools that you can suggest when working in a technology environment that might enhance?
A literal tool?
Well, you've suggested several tools that enhance the three rules that you put forth, and I just wondered, in the specific area of technology, if there's anything that you can suggest.
Yes, I can suggest a tuning fork, tuned to the vibration that feels best to you when you strike it. Working in that environment can enhance and focus your consciousness in profound ways. Will that do? Do you understand what we're saying?
Perhaps. I'm not sure whether I do.
All right. In other words, there are tuning forks that vibrate at certain resonances, certain frequencies.
I
yes?
know that, yeah.
All right. Well, find one that vibrates at a frequency that you feel puts you in the proper focal state to do the work you're talking about doing. And then let yourself have that vibration. It can be low in the background in the environment in which you're working. It can help focus you. Or you can do it at 15-minute intervals. Hit it, strike it, let it resonate. Let yourself identify with that state, that vibration, that frequency. Let yourself relax into it. Absorb it, feel it, contain it. Let it put you in that semi-hypnotic focal state, and then go back to doing the work. And if you need to do it at different intervals for you, then let your imagination be your guide. But that is actually a tool that can help focus you on certain frequencies that are germane for the work that you're doing.
Okay. I think that gives me something to try.
Oh, all right.
I wanted to ask also about we are considering, we already are starting to make the location sphere that you described.
For that experiment, yes.
Right. And we have a material that we think will allow us to make an extremely thin but very perfect sphere to within, say, a 1/10 millimeter.
Okay. That's wonderful.
And
congratulations.
Is that close enough?
Yes.
And so nickel copper
is fine.
Is fine. That'll work.
Yes. Especially as thin as you're making it.
Yes, it'll be like a 1/4 millimeter thick.
Yes.
Very, very thin.
Just make sure that your surface is also very, very flat on the table that you rested on.
Okay. And so when we ping it with some either RF or acoustic,
yes.
What kind of frequency should we be listening for?
Well, you'll find out when you take the reading of what the frequency is at the initial location. Then when you move it to the new location and take another reading, you'll find out what that frequency is if your equipment is sensitive enough to tell the difference in the frequencies between the two different locations. That's the whole point of the experiment.
No, I get that, but will it be, say, within 9 kilohertz and and 5
I can't
gigahertz?
tell you that. It has too many variables in terms of what it is you're constructing. It will be determined by everything in the room. The table that it's on, the equipment you're using to ping it with, all sorts of things. So I can't tell you that. You'll find out when you take the recording, when you take the reading.
Okay. Well, we have very sensitive equipment.
All right, well, we'll see.
Over a very wide
how sensitive it is.
Okay.
And you'll get your reading, and then you'll know what the frequency is.
Well, we're going to be trying it within the next few weeks.
Congratulations.
Also, the space-time coil.
Yes.
So we've constructed one, 33 turns, 33 degrees.
Yes.
The cone, the top peak of the cone and the base of the other cone are connected at one end, but open on the other. So they're two, and it's made out of 1/8 inch copper tubing.
All right. So you're saying they are two interpenetrating coils, one up, one down, and they're connected at each end?
They're connected at one end.
Why not the other?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. Should they be connected at both ends?
Yes.
Okay.
One coil is the other coil.
So they must be connected at both ends.
Yes, or you don't have a complete circuit, do you?
No, of course not.
Thank you.
That's why I'm asking.
Yes.
Because
that was the original description.
My colleague who's actually doing the construction has made it that way with only one end connected.
Well, that's not the original description we gave.
Okay. That's what I thought. That's why I'm asking the question.
All right. Well, now I have answered it.
Instruct him to do it a little bit differently. So
yes.
How do we energize this coil?
You can attach an electrical source to it and give it a kickstart.
Okay. Where would you attach it?
On the coil. Anywhere. Doesn't matter. Just give it a kickstart.
Well, if current's going to flow, it has to have two connections, right?
What I'm saying is you are creating an energy source. You're bringing an energy source, a battery, what have you. Yes?
Right. Okay.
And you are connecting the two leads to the coil at different places.
Okay. To the two coils that are essentially you have a short.
One up and one down.
In terms of DC.
One up and one down.
Right.
The coils are insulated, are they not?
No.
Well, we told you they had to be.
Oh, okay.
Therefore, if they're insulated, connecting the lead to one and the other will give it the kickstart it needs.
But you just said they were shorted to each other, the cone, the tip of the cone.
I understand, but you're dealing with something different here than your normal technology. The very shape of the thing itself will cause a different phenomenon to happen.
Well, we can induce a current with an inductive field.
Then do it that way.
Because a battery, if it's insulated, wouldn't be connected.
Then do it that way. There are ways to do it with the battery, but if you have the ability to use an inductive field, then by all means do that.
We definitely do.
Then that would be more efficient.
Excellent.
Until you tell us what level you're at and what you're capable of doing, we have to start you at the basic level.
We're capable of a lot more than I have said.
All right, then use what you are most capable of, and that will take you farther.
We can do an inductive source. If there's a bare spot on the copper, we can connect a battery.
All right, but again, you have already said that the inductive source is something you're capable of doing, and therefore it would be more efficient and allow you to experience the effects in a more efficient and larger, more measurable way.
And then how would you extract energy from this if it's...
We'll talk about that later when you first induce a current and see what effects you can measure from it.
Okay, so we should come back and report that to you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will do that.
Step at a time.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Okay. So, can you tell me anything, can you give me a hint about spinning noble gas plasma?
I can talk about spinning noble gas plasma in a variety of ways, but a hint based on what and for what purpose? Because there are many purposes to spinning noble gas plasmas.
For either A, extracting energy, B, inducing healing effects from, say, argon, helium, neon, krypton, or xenon.
I understand what you're saying, but the technology that I'm familiar with would be beyond your technology. You actually don't have the technology to do what I could describe to you.
Well, describe it anyway, please.
All right. If you have a ovoid container, a torus, as it were, filled with noble gas plasma, and the container is an alloy of aluminum, boron, neodymium, nickel, copper, in a nanoglass matrix suspended with double layer graphene, and you introduce the same kind of induction current that you were talking about before, but on a much, much more powerful level, you will create a radiant field, an electromagnetic field around the torus that can have many different kinds of effects depending upon other things that you would contain that torus in that would translate that energy for multiple purposes at multiple frequencies. Can you build one of those?
We can get pretty close to that.
Let's see.
Well, it will take a while to do that.
Yes,
I
I
can
know.
tell you, but
that's what I was saying.
But the thing that I showed the channel, Daryl,
Yes.
earlier,
Yes.
is something of sort in that direction. It's a nanomaterial
Yes.
with layers of copper and nickel.
Yes, we understand, but it's nothing close to what we just described.
It can be infused with graphene, and we're working with graphene, by the way,
All right.
too.
All right.
And glass.
Tell me when you get to the nanoglass.
By nanoglass, what do you mean? Do you mean little beads of glass at the like 20 nanometers?
We mean that it is nanotechnology that is made of a type of glass that can change form and can absorb energies of certain quantities and certain resonances for specific purposes, and shift as it needs to in real time to handle the fluctuations going on in the energy fields that you generate.
Fascinating.
It's a new form of containment.
Thank you.
A responsive real-time containment.
Containment of what?
Of the plasma.
Okay. I see.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.